welcome to Sipping Rooms. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Phil Harding. I'll be your host this evening. So far, we've always been concentrating on gins with our Sipping Rooms. And Sipping Rooms is all about introducing people to new brands, to distilleries, and understanding the backstory about those distilleries. And so far we've explored all around the UK. We've even been across to Australia. On this Sipping Rooms, we are going to explore a completely new category, getting away from gin, and we're going to explore tequila. So I know that the gin category is huge in the UK, tequila category not so much, but we're hoping to introduce you to a fantastic example of what tequila is all about. So we're going to, obviously I'm based in London, there's going to be some cocktail making going on. I'll be based in London too, but we will be traveling to Mexico and we'll be seeing actually where the brand is from. We'll be talking to the people who produce it. We'll actually be going onto the production line where it's being bottled and where it's matured. So we'll be seeing something really hands-on. And bearing in mind, at this present time, it is, I think, about 20 to 1 in the afternoon in Guadalajara. So very different weather, I'm sure, and a very different time of the day. So the production line will be in full flow. So that'll be really interesting. So we're going to be introduced to Código 1530, which is a super premium tequila. And we're going to show you some serves, going to delve into the history of not only the brand, but we'll show you actually how tequila is made, which is obviously very, very different from a lot of the stuff which we've done with gin before. I think with how gin is made, the processes, the botanicals, etc., which go into is a well-worn path with us. Hopefully we'll see something really different this evening. And very importantly, for those who've actually got some of this absolutely fantastic liquid in their hand, you'll be able to taste how absolutely incredible this is, how complex, how much care and love and attention goes into these products. So we've got a pretty busy hour or so. Knowing us, we'll go a bit over an hour and probably we'll end up having a few drinks afterwards. But yeah, we've got a pretty busy hour. And just a little bit of housekeeping before we go on. We have got quite a few questions sent in already, but if you want to send in any more during the event, please just put it into the chat. Hopefully we'll pick up on that and we can then filter that through to either the guys who are making the cocktails or to Riccardo, who's going to be showing us around the facility in Mexico. So plenty of opportunities to ask questions. Please feel free to ask as many as possible. Hopefully we'll be able to answer them. And yes, we also have our famous competition. So for those of you who have been on before, you'll be well aware that we have a word or a phrase repeated 3 times throughout the event. And for the first person to recognize this unique word or phrase, you can put it into the chat, say what it is, and obviously your name will be up there as well. The first person to do that will win a bottle of tequila, which we will send out to you, bottle of Código. So I must re-emphasize that this word or phrase will be something quite unusual. It won't be agave or still or bottle or tequila or something like that. It'll be something slightly unusual. So keep your ears peeled, if that's a phrase, for the unique word or phrase. And hopefully someone will recognize it, put it straight into the chat, and a bottle will be winging its way to you. So yes, shortly I'll stop speaking, which I'm sure you'll be grateful of, and we'll be joining Xavier who is based in London, and he is the brand ambassador for Código. And he'll be doing a brief introduction to our first drink, which is a T&T, a tequila and tonic. And for those of you who've ordered or had a bottle sent through, we've been very kindly sponsored by London Essence this evening, and you'll have your tonic to go with the tequila. So he'll explain why the flavors go together, what garnishes you should be using, and a little bit about Rosa, the tequila which we'll be tasting this evening. And then, without further ado, we'll be going to Mexico, and we'll have a rundown, a background, a bit about the brand and what makes tequila so special, and what makes Código a very, very special brand within the tequila category. And then after that, we will be coming back to London, and we've got a very special guest this evening who is an incredible mixologist who will be showing you how to make some of the cocktails which you've been sent through. It'll be on your ticket, the list of ingredients. So hopefully some of you will have gone out, as you usually do, and pulled together the ingredients. So yeah, we'll be swapping between London and Guadalajara quite a bit this evening. So without too much further ado, I will stop speaking, but thank you so much for joining us this evening. And I will hand over to Xavier, who will start to kick off the drinking. I've already poured myself one, so but enjoy this, and it's over to you, Xavier.
Cool. Thanks, Phil. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. First of all, just thank you for joining, and I hope you're ready for some tequila.
Certainly are.
Great. That's good to hear. I'm for sure I'm still ready for tequila. I know some of you might have not opened your bottle yet, so I will invite you now to open it on the time that I'll be sort of like explaining a little bit about Rosa, about Código, the brand specifically. I won't get into much of a detail because I know that my colleague Riccardo will run us through how we make Código, how tequila should be made, and it will give us a tour as well. So I will leave him with that. But yeah, so hope you'll have a bottle of Rosa with you. And I just wanted to start saying that we don't add anything to this tequila, because you know, when you see a pink or a Rosa liquid, Rosa means pink in Spanish, by the way, for the ones who doesn't know. So we don't add anything, no colors, no flavors, no additives. It's all natural. So this pink color comes from the wood that we use. We use a French white oak that it comes from Napa Valley, and previously hold some Cabernet. So those barrels been aged some Cabernet for about a year, and then we put our liquid in. So that's why you get this pinkish reddish hue, which is amazing. It's all natural. It's nothing added. I just wanted to reiterate that and make sure that everyone is aware of it. We make Código at only one distillery, which is the NOM 1500, and that's a distillery that is only making Código, nothing else. Well, they make some private tequila for themselves. I mean, who's gonna blame them, right? But that's the only brand we do. We're very, very proud of that, because not many distilleries are actually making only one drink. They make more than one brand. Therefore, I think it's about 0.7% of brands are only producing at their own distillery, which is not a huge number. But yeah, I'm not just gonna talk anymore. I'm just gonna let my colleague Riccardo guide us through the whole process afterwards. And if you have your tequila ready on your glass. So tequila tasting is very similar to whiskey. You know, the reason why I'm using a whiskey glass is because I don't have the proper Mexican, or the way that the Mexican people drink tequila, which is called caballito. It's a shot glass, somewhere between a shot glass and a highball, and they just fill it up to the top and just down it. That's the way enjoy tequila, I mean, I will recommend you not doing that tonight. But the way to taste tequila is you should approach it from your chin. You do not stuff your nose into the glass. I mean, remember, it's a spirit, it's quite strong, right? So if you stuff your nose in, it's going to be too punchy. Even the Código is super smooth and very easygoing, you know, still at 35% ABV, so it could be quite punchy. So you start from the bottom and just give it a sniff, just a quick smell, and just get this aroma. I mean, I guess some of you might have rough nights with tequila. Pretty much everyone did. Just to remind you, it's not the same liquids. That tequila that you had on that night that gave you a really, really bad next day, that's not 100% blue agave tequila. It's not pure tequila. Basically, it's made with some agave juice to give the flavor, but at the same time, it's made with other spirits, right? Just to give, well, just to make it cheaper and be more easier to make. So when that first hint that we get when we smell it, that's agave. That's if you've ever been to Mexico, you go to a tequila distillery, that's the smell. That's the smell that you get. Basically, it's fresh agave, natural agave. And with the rosa, the extra layer, I mean, it'll be great for you guys to compare with a blanco. So if you have Código Blanco on your side, and then you compare it with the rosa, you'll be able to see the difference. But I mean, that might be on for another day. But tonight we only have the rosa. So just give that smell. It gives the second layer of that smell is a bit more of a floral. That's what we get from the wood. That's what we get from the Cabernet, from the Napa Valley that I mentioned before, the barrels, basically. And then yeah, just go for it. Don't be shy. Just try it. Have a sip. The first one could be a bit warm, a bit punchy. Is the first sip of a spirit we'll be having tonight. But yeah, pretty much the smell that we get is sort of like very similar to the flavor we're having now of the mouth, right? So it's very agave forward. That's the way we try to keep Código. It's very true to how tequila should taste and how tequila should be made, basically, right? So you get these bright agave characters, and then you get these finishes with more of a soft floral notes from the Cabernet, from the wine. And yeah, I mean, I hope everyone enjoyed it. I hope everyone is liking it. As I said, the first sip is could be a bit rough. It happens with every spirit, so I will recommend you to have another one. Yeah, right. Just have another small sip. Now you'll be able to appreciate more the flavors. So the second layer that I mentioned, right, that more of a floral side from the Cabernet is what we're getting now, right? Is this aftertaste. So that's what we get from the Rosa, basically. It's not more than our Blanco just aged for 1 month on those Cabernet barrels. That's it. That's how the Rosa comes out. Cool. So shall we, I mean, we thought it'd be great to have a drink while we're running through the whole presentation, the whole sampling. So, I mean, TNT is the thing, right? You might guys be more familiar with gin and tonic, but tequila and tonic is just an amazing drink. It's the way to drink it. When I go out, personally, that's what I tend to go for. It's fresh, easy to drink. It's not a shot, right? So it lasts you a bit longer. And to make a TNT is very simple, right? It's quite similar to a gin and tonic. You only need 3 ingredients: ice, the spirit, Código, and then some tonic, right? The side of the tonic, I mean, all the ingredients are very important, right? But on the side of the tonic, there you go, that's my tonic. We decided to go for London Essence. I mean, that's a very premium tonic. It's a really, really good tonic, in fact, to mix with any spirit, not only with tequila. I would recommend you to try with gin as well, or whiskey, or whatever is your preferred spirit. But I mean, the reason why we decided to go with these guys, because it's a very light tonic, right? So it's not overpowering, it's not too strong. And the bubbles remind me a bit of champagne bubbles, right? Very small, very, very thin, and very continuous. So that helps our drinks come through and the alcohol just to shine through, basically, right? So it just intensifies the flavors of our spirits, which at the end of the day, that's what we'll be looking for a tonic. So cool. if you have your tonic on your hands, your Código on the other, just grab a glass. I mean, personally, I like to use rock glass for my tea and tea. I do the same for gin and tonic. I'm not a big fan of highballs. Feel free to use a highball if you have it. It's exactly the same. Just rock glass feels better in my hands. That's a personal preference. Cool. So let's start with the first ingredient, ice, as I mentioned, right? Ice, don't be shy with it. Put it all to the top, full of ice. Right, full of ice to the top, easy. Then we're gonna go for a double measure of Código. So 50 milliliters of Código. Feel free to free pour, but just do not overcall it. Just, I'm gonna use a measure. There you go. 50 milliliters of Código. And then we will top up with the tonic. When you're topping up with the tonic, try to go slow, right? Just don't do it too quick. Then the tonic will keep those bubbles, right? Those champagne bubbles that we mentioned before. So we want to be like very small bubbles and very continuous to make our experience a little bit better, basically. And then for the last, I will definitely recommend you to garnish it. Well, the garnish, right? Every drink has to have a garnish. I will definitely recommend you to garnish with some grapefruit. Tequila and grapefruit goes incredibly well all together. So I will recommend you to use grapefruit. In case you don't have any, just go for lime. It's great. It will give this citrus note as well. So all good. And then the latest thing we need is straw. I'm just going to tell you a couple of things about these straws. I don't know if you can appreciate it. So this straw is made with agave. It's made with, well, we make them at Código as well. So with the leftovers of all the agave that we have, because I mean, you know, we have to crush the agave to extract all the juice. I mean, I'm not going to go into details because I mean, my colleague Riccardo is going to go through. So don't be scared if you don't know what agave is. Don't be scared, you know, with all the process, but you will learn all of that later on today. So those straws are made with agave, fully biodegradable. Those are the ones that I have here. But I mean, if you have plastic ones, just don't be ashamed. Use your plastic ones. And there you go. So that'll be it. Just put it on. Cheers.
Thanks so much, Xavi. That's fantastic. Hope everybody's enjoying their T&T. Now, without further ado, we are going to go and join Riccardo in Guadalajara. Now, Riccardo is basically the man who looks after the whole of the operations of Código. What Riccardo doesn't know about Código isn't worth talking about. He lives and breathes the product. Has worked, he said, I think since he is the age of 20, with the company since its inception. So he knows absolutely everything about Código, and we are going to see all around his place of work, and I think we're going to see something which we've not seen before in any of the sipping rooms. So really excited. So let's say a big hello to Riccardo, and he's going to tell us all about Código. Hi, Riccardo.
Hey guys, how are you? Great to be here today and very excited to share these sipping rooms with you. With no more further information, let me jump into a presentation I'm gonna make. I'm gonna try to explain very easy what is agave, what the process is, how we make it, what's the distillery, and any questions, well, put it on the chat and we will try to answer it later. So the first question everybody asked me when we first talked about Código is why Código and why the 1530? So Código means the codex and the traditions in the families in the old days. So the idea, this was a tequila privado. So what we try to do with this is that we keep those same codex and those same traditions in the modern era. So that's very important. And the 1530 is the year foundation of Amatitan. Amatitan is a small town located in Jalisco, Mexico, and there's where we have our distillery. So the 1530, when we had the Spanish conquest, and later after, Amatitan was founded in the 1530s. So that's why the name, and well, our region, we're located in the lowlands. There are two main regions to make tequila. The first one is the lowlands, and the second one is the highlands. There's no such like a better place to make tequila, or which one is better and which one is worst. No, actually, the thing is that on the tequila, we have this thing like in Champagne, like the denomination of origin or appellation of origin, which tells you that only in very specific areas, only in Mexico, you can produce tequila and grow your agave. We only use agave blue tequilana Weber, which is a type of plant, and that's the only kind of agave we can use actually to make tequila. So having this denomination of origin, the areas that you can find tequila are very, very small. So there's about 150 distilleries active right now. But as Javi said earlier today, we only have, there's only few distilleries that have their own product. Common distilleries make around 50 to 70 brands in one distillery. And that's something that we're very proud of, that we are the one brand for one distillery. So everything you're gonna see today here, including the bar, for example, is 100% Código 1530, nothing else. What happens with agave? When someone asks me what is tequila and on why I love it so much, is it takes a long lifespan to grow your agave and then make your tequila and then sell it, then put it into barrels and then sell it. So it's a process of decades sometimes. So in order to grow your agave to a full maturity, it will take around 7 years, and it will need to have a Brix count of around 32. So this means that we only select the best plants. How does the fields and the agave works? We have some land, but mainly we purchase from several, let's say, agave farmers, which we know for years now, and we have these specific characteristics we're looking for our agave. Even though all the agave is blue tequilana Weber, we request certain sugar count, certain characteristics from certain regions. So this helps us since the very beginning to control all the process of our tequila. What is the other thing which is very important? The other thing is very important is the yeast and the water. Those are the only three things we use: yeast, agave, and water. The water is filtered through volcanic rock from deep wells. So it's a very, very good water, and it helps a lot our tequila. The yeast, it's an organic yeast from a bakery on Amatitan. So actually, we do not add any chemicals, any accelerators, any stimulators to our yeast or to our fermentation process. All this being said, let's jump to the first part of the process. The first step, it'll be harvest your agave. Once you grow your agave and it is ready, and you know that it is ready to produce tequila, we will go to the fields and harvest those agaves. Then we'll bring it down to the distillery, which takes us to the next step, which is cooking the agave. We decide to cook our agave in autoclaves, and once it's cooked, we will jump to the next process, which is extraction of the juice or mashing the agave. What happens here is we will separate all the pulp from the juice, and all that juice, we're gonna send it to a fermentation, which is the fourth step. And then once we fermentate our juice, we will have the distillation process. Once we distill, we have two choices. Either we send it for a blanco, or either we put it into barrels. And once we decide what we're doing, the interesting part comes, which is the bottling. So that's the process, let's say roughly, and we will go through every step a little bit deeper. Harvesting the agave. Well, as I told you, we only use 100% blue agave tequilana Weber. There are hundreds actually of types of agave. And the interesting part is that tequila can only be made with one. So That's a very interesting part of the process. We have here something since the beginning, which is called the CRT, which is the Tequila Regulatory Council. The Tequila Regulatory Council will be with us through the whole process, since the field till the finished product. With this, what we will achieve, we have certificates in order to export worldwide. We will have the certainty that our product won't be harmful, it's in parameters, and the quality is just perfect. So let's say it's a regulator for all the tequila distilleries, and it's very important for the industry in order to be considered as a good spirit, such as a whiskey, as a cognac, as whatever else. So it's very important when we go to harvest our agave, the way we cut it. We will cut all the stems you see here on the picture, and we will only keep the piña, which is the circle area, let's say, of the agave. We will cut it with the coa. The coa is a tool that we use to harvest our agave. And again, if the agave that we are harvesting doesn't match our standards, we will not accept it. We will reject it, and we will call our farmer and say, hey, we need another field because this one doesn't have the requirements we need. Once we have it and we receive it, we will cook it. There are three main methods to cook. The first one is brick ovens. The second one is the stainless steel autoclaves. And the third one is the diffuser. We have decided to use stainless steel autoclaves. Why? Because of a very simple reason. It's easier to get them clean. It has a very good control of temperature and the pressure. And the taste is really good. What's other stuff? For example, in the brick oven, you will have good flavors, yes, but it's harder to control the pressure, the temperature, and sometimes the cleanliness inside the oven. And in the other hand, with the diffusers, you will be very, very efficient, but you will sacrifice a lot of flavors and a lot of quality, let's say, in the juice. You will get almost pure alcohol from that process. So that's why we decide to use the autoclave. And what's very important, the piña is what you see over here in this picture. That's an agave cooked. Once it's harvested, you will leave a small part of stem, only the very base, and the center is the heart of the agave. So this is a cooked agave, and once it's cooked, it will fall apart, and it will be like a very, very smooth pulp and with a lot of juice. So this is once we have it like here, we'll pass to the next step, which is mashing the agave or extracting the juice. We're very proud to say that all the equipment that we have in our distillery is built in-house by us. So this is very important. You will see some probably similar things in other distilleries, but we have very specific things that will talk to the process that are built by us, and that we are the only ones using that kind of stuff in the process. So that's why it's very unique. What happens here? We will mash. We mash only with a chopper built in-house. We only get, with this process, what we try is to get only the best of the fibers and the juice. We reject everything else. And yes, we are very inefficient, but we assure the quality. What happens if we overbreak the fibers of the agave? We will release a lot of methanols and other stuff that we don't want to have a high concentration in our finished product. So since this process, we start taking control of that. The way we mash is very different, for example, from a taona, which is the most typical form. A taona is a big wheel in a circle in the ground, and probably 2 donkeys or 2 horses will be pulling the wheel and mashing all the fibers. What happens here? If the animal makes poo-poo or pee-pee in the area, it'll fall on your agave, and that's like kind of contamination. Second of all, if you overmash it, you will release the good stuff, but also the bad stuff. So we try to separate this. The way we do it is when we're mashing, we are throwing hot water or warm water to the fibers, and more than breaking them, we're washing them. So with this, we achieve a perfect extraction of the juice. we use around 10 to 12 kilos to make 1 liter of Código 1530. So the average in the industry is around 3 to 5 kilos in the very industrial companies. In the more artisanal, it's around 7, 8 kilos. So we are way over about the average in the industry. Once we have all the juice, we'll pump it to a very big stainless steel tank and we'll make our fermentation process. Again, we make everything very artisanal, very handmade, let's say. So our fermentation can take up to 12 days. That's what, because we do not use any accelerators or something else. Since it's a regular yeast from the bakery, the process is very slow. It will depend a lot on which season of the year we are. Because, for example, if we're in summer, it can be around 7 days, 6 days. But if we're in the winter, it will take longer because the yeast is a living particle, so it will be hard. Again, we do not add anything. We have only add agave right now, the water, meanwhile we're mashing, and the third part is the yeast. Once this is all fermented, the fermentation is a very important process because here's where we're gonna make, or where the fermentation is gonna make all the aromas and all the flavors and all the characteristics of our tequila in the glass. So this is a very, very important step of the process. Once it's fermented, that juice that is fermented is called mosto. The fermented mosto will pass through the next step, which is the distillation. Once we have two types of distillation. Two distillations. The first one is called destroyer and the second one is called rectifier. What they do the same. Here is the picture. The pot is the same type, but in the first one, the destroyer, you will start separating all the solids remaining in the juice, or the first characteristics, all the first stuff you're gonna separate here, and from this part of the process we get the first tequila, which is called or known as ordinario. You will never find a tequila ordinario for sale because it doesn't taste good. It's around 20 alcohol volume, so it's kind of a weird liquid. But let's say we're starting the process of purifying it. That once you have all that ordinario, you will pass it to the next distillation, which is the rectifier. And as the name say it, you're only gonna rectify that tequila. And the result of that rectification is the tequila blanco. Here are the distillation is a very complex process because here is where the maestro tequilero will be using all the experience and all their measurements and everything to know when to cut the heads, what's the heart, and what are the tails, and what's the specific point he needs to cut in order to have the tequila and be consistent with every single batch. Also, many distilleries, what they used to do what they commonly do in the distillation is that they distill at a very high alcohol volume. So they are very efficient. But what happens? We have decided to distill the lowest we can and the most similar to the bottling alcohol volume. So with this, we achieve that we are only at very small amount of water to water it down. So we have our tequila in the glass is very similar to the ones that we distill. Other distilleries will add a lot of water and that will like dilute your tequila a lot. So this is a very interesting process. Once we have the juice, we pass to a very interesting process that I love, which is the aging. Either we separate it for a blanco in order to bottle it, filter it, and bottle it, or we decide to age. Código 1530 is not only rosa. We have blanco, we have the rosa, we have reposado, we have añejo, we have extra añejo, and many special editions. So once we decide that we're not gonna bottle it for blanco, we have to choose either we send it for rosa or for other SKU. Why I make this clarification between the rosa and the reposado, añejo, and extra añejo is we do not charge the rosa barrels. We received the rosa barrels from Napa Valley, which is previously aged Cabernet wine. And immediately, as soon as we receive it, we fill them with the blanco tequila for around 22 days through a month. We need to check that batch every single day to assure that the quality and the batch consistency is the same. Once we have used those barrels for rosa, we char them with the same oak the barrels are made of, which all our barrels are made of French oak. Once you char them, we can use them either for reposado, añejo, or an extra añejo. We are true believers that we do not, I mean, we follow the law, but the law, for example, requests you for a reposado only to age for 2 months. We decide to age our reposado for longer, which is six months. The añejo is requested by law to age 1 year. We have decided to age it at least 18 months, but regularly more than 2 years, 2 years and a half. That's the average we have right now. And the extra añejo by law is 3 years, and we have decided to age it around 6 to 7 years. So even though it's the same product as another reposado, you will find it very different from other brands probably because of the times we give in the barrels and the type of barrels. In the tequila industry, the most common barrel is the American oak. Almost no one uses French oak, which obviously will give us very different notes on the glass. Then we'll pass to the last stage, which is the bottling. On the bottling, what we do is we decide once we harvest our barrels or we have our blanco ready, we'll just put it into bottles, prepare it, and that's all. It's very important to say that we only bottle Código 1530 at this facility. We have our own distillery, we have our own bottling facility, so we do not outsource any operation, which is very important. And all our tequila is bottled at origin. So this means that nothing is bottled outside. So that's great. It's very important. I want to make a small recommendation. It's very common to try the tequila in different glasses. It's very common, for example, personally myself, I love to taste extra añejos on a cognac glass in order to enhance all the aromas, all the flavors, very wide open mouth. The blanco, the rosa, the reposado, even an añejo, is very common here in Mexico that we try. There are two types of drinking. Either you use a caballito, which is more for pairing or more like for one product. But when you are trying to make like a very deep tasting, the idea is to use a flute glass, similar to the champagne glass. So, and well, that'll be all right now.
Thank you very much. There's a huge amount there to take in, and so interesting. And I think when we go back, you'll be able to see so much more about the actual aging process and the bottling process, which we've just not seen with the distillery before. So thank you so much, Riccardo. We are now going to go and come back to London, and I think it's Covent Garden we're going to Gregorio's house, who is our mixologist for this evening. So he's all set up. He's even gone and got himself a Código t-shirt, which he's looking very, very good in, and he's going to show us some cocktails. So if you haven't got your ingredients at home, don't worry. This is going to be an absolute masterclass from a master. And so it's really, Gregorio, it's over to you. And could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your background? Because I know that you have got an incredible pedigree of mixology.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you for having me today. I represent Código as the winner of the competition. Me personally, I need to say that I'm more a gin person. I always work with gin. I love tequila in my background, tequila and mezcal. I used to work at the distillery for Portobello Road Gin, and I spent my last 2 years at the American bar, the Savoy. Now I'm looking for a new adventure starting in November. I'm Italian, and I spent my life studying guitar and mixing cocktails. That's it, basically. So what about this brand? We're gonna make a couple of cocktails tonight using this fabulous tequila. There's the Rosa. And we will start from the Bloody Marys. we will start with the winning cocktail of the competition, that's El Sangre Blanco, and the simplified version, that's the Bloody Mary. So let's start. For the Sangre Blanco, you just need to have your shaker ready. We're gonna have 45 milliliters of tequila. We just need to squeeze a little bit of lemon, 10 milliliters. We got 3 drops of water sauce. So we got the most controversial ingredients. We got white port. You can use a wine or a sherry. It just like a mineral note to the cocktail. 5 milliliters. And we ask you to make this homemade ingredient. That's clarified tomato water. That's, as you can see, really easy. You just blend tomato, you put in a muslin bag, and it's done. Of course, there are various forms of clarification. That's the easiest one. As you can see, the color is not pretty clear, but clarification is not about just the color. It is around to remove the solid part from the liquid. In the case of the tomato, you're gonna remove the skin and the seeds. So for this one, we're gonna use 45 milliliters. We've got a drop of celery bitter and a pinch of salt. So let's just start some ice. As you can see, I've done the ice myself with the fridge, so it's totally homemade and a good shake. We got our martini glass, preferably chilled. And we got our cocktail ready. So if you don't have made the clarified tomato water and you will stick on the classic Bloody Mary, that I love it, I recommend you to do a Bloody Mary still with a Código. And I will use a shaker to basically throw the cocktail from one side to the other. You can just use your glasses. That's super easy. So let's we put some ice inside of the shaker. So for a classic Bloody Mary, I would recommend the same amount of tequila. So let's say 45 to 50 ml. We will use the same amount of lemon, let's say 10 to 12 ml, or the other side of the one you squeezed before. We got some pepper, let's say a pinch. I got celery salt, but you can use some salt. What I have here is let's say a mix of spice. You can use Worcestershire sauce and Tabasco. I will personally put around 12 ml of this mix. I like my Bloody Mary quite spicy and quite with Worcestershire. And we got, last but not least, the main ingredient. We got fresh tomato juice. So for this one, you can consider like 100 ml. Got another glass. So what I'm doing right now is basically give some oxygen to the mix. And if you build your drink up over ice, will be a little bit like let's say, it stand a little bit. In this way, it's not a shaker, so there will be a little bit of oxygenation, but not like this one, but it will be like fluffy. So if you got a celery stick, I will recommend you to cut the edges. And give it a little bit with a peeler, so they will be super fresh, even for a little bit of smell. After that, we just need to put your blend inside of the glass. Add a little bit of ice. And you got your celery stick on the top of it. So in this case, you got two versions of the same cocktail with basically the same ingredients, but with different forms. So you got the classic Bloody Mary over there. There's no need of exploration. So just the name was gonna change because we got tequila on that, so it's a Bloody Maria. And you got a fancy one that's really easy to do at home as well. Actually, the cocktail was winning the competition. It was a little bit different, but just on the citrus side, instead of using classic lemon juice, I was using some citric acid solution, 2%. That's quite easy to do, but not everyone have access to that. And apart of that, I just had a little crusta, like a Mexican style of drink. That was easy.
Thank you so much. That you made it look so easy, but that I know that that's years and years and years of practice. If I tried doing the tomato juice from one shaker to the next, I'd have definitely ended up with most of it on the floor or down my white t-shirt. But he's being very modest there, people. He has, until very recently, been working at the American bar at the Savoy Hotel for 2 years. And that's probably the most iconic bar in the world, certainly in London. It's regularly voted the best cocktail bar in the world. So you've got someone there, you've just seen an absolute masterclass from a master. Anyway, we will be going back for another cocktail making session with him in a bit, but now it's back to the very exciting bit of our tour around the bottling and maturation part of the Código setup. So I must say, apologies if there's background noise, because we're actually going around a live bottling plant. So there will be quite a bit of background noise. So I won't be doing any kind of question and answer with Riccardo. So bear with the background noise. He will be explaining stuff. I think we might say hello to a couple of the workers as well. But you will be seeing the actual nuts and bolts of how tequila's matured and bottled. So Riccardo, are you there? Hopefully you are.
Yes, how are you guys? Can you hear me?
This is seamless. I'm loving this. I'm loving this. Okay, it's over to you, and hopefully you can show us around the facility now.
Perfect.
Great.
Come on, join me. Well, here is where we start the process. Here's the bottling line. We have 2 bottling lines on this facility. The first one is let's say for all the regular products and the big ones. We start first with a washing machine. Here we will wash every single bottle with the same tequila we're bottling in this area. Then once the bottles are washed, the juice remains over here. And again, this is only tequila. We do not add water, soap, or anything else. This tunnel is a UV light tunnel. So in here, we will quick kill all the bacteria or any other particle that we don't want in our tequila or on the bottle remaining. And then we have the filling process. Once we fill our bottles, we put every cork by hand. Once this is made, we will pass to the next stage, which will be the cork strip label adding. So during this process, as you can see, we do everything by hand. We need to add the cork strip label by hand. We add the necker by hand, and we add the security seal by hand. Once all this is done, we pass it through the heat tunnel. Then we batch every single bottle with the date and the batch number that it has. And then we pass to the next stage. The next stage is the labeling. We do every labeling by hand, as you can see. Once this is made, here on the final part, they need to check every single bottle, check that the labels are aligned, that it has everything it needs to have, and then they will pass it to the very end. Then another person will put it into boxes and seal every case. Again, we add batch number and date on every single case in order to assure quality and have traceability. Then we have here the second line. The second line is the same process, washing the bottles, just the small ones. Then it will pass here to the filling machine. And the process again is the same. Once they are filled, they check all the volume, that every bottle has the juice inside, and then we close the bottle. We inspect quality on every single bottle, that the closure is perfectly sticking to the bottle. If not, we remove the seal. And then once we have them filled and ready, by hand, we put every single bottle in the van, and we add the batch to every bottle. Again, even these small bottles, every single bottle needs to have the batch and the date when they were bottled. Here on this part of the process, we have all the finished product, which is gonna hit any part of the world later. And all this needs to be checked and be certified by the CRT, which is the Tequila Regulatory Council. We have here this line. The other line over there. And here we have all the supplies. We need to know exactly how many bottles we have from which batch, when they were bottled, who was the supervisor in the line that day, all the supplies. We know exactly what we have on labels, shippers, bottles, on everything. And as you can see, this is a daily basis operation here at the warehouse. Then we're gonna have here all our bottles. We have different sizes. We have from 1 liters to 50 mLs. So we have a lot of inventory here of bulk bottles ready to be filled. And here we'll have all the tank area and all the processing area, let's say. We can fit here over 500,000 liters of tequila at the same time. So we have a very good capacity here. All the tanks are stainless steel. Why? Because on stainless steel, you can save your tequila for the time you want, and the tequila won't change at all. So this is very important. Here on the tank area, we have these two babies, which are the filtering systems we have. The one on the right one, the one that looks more metal, is a chiller filter system. In here, we will chill our tequila, mainly the Blanco, in order to remove all the fatty acids that the agave has on the tequila. And on this one, this is kind of like on the wine. It's an oxygenator system. It's an oxygenator filtering system by gravity. So with this, with very low pressure, we put over the tequila on the top tank and filter it through gravity to the lower tank. And this allows a lot of things, mainly to have a very soft tequila, but also to enhance all the flavors or the aromas that we're gonna have later on the glass. We're gonna pass here to one of my favorite areas, which is the cellar room. Here we have over 700 barrels at once aging. And here is very important. We need to have marked which type of barrels are we aging, and which batch was it, and all this. This is very important. For example, every barrel is stacked and prepared by hand by our tonneliers that we have on house. And we have here a very interesting part of the process because for example, I don't know if you guys know this brand, for example, there is a Darnaju. So I can tell you that we only have around 6 to 7 tonnelier houses. And we have in the world of barrels what would be the best of the best. All these barrels are French oak, and all of them are the wood. The oak is over. The wood is over 250 years old. They are season opener for more than 24 months. And every single barrel you can see here, for example, this one, we have the mark. As you can see, we have a number for every barrel. So this, we know exactly when this barrel was made, what tonnelier it comes from, the toast, the specific toast it has. For example, this is a medium toast, and which type of forest from France it was made of, and the certifications and all, everything. So we have the traceability of every single barrel we have on hand. So this is very interesting. And again, I would say that in the barrels, we have the best of the best. I always like to tell that we have the Ferraris and Lamborghinis in the barrel world. It's very important, for example, to have separate the Rosa barrels and the Reposado, Añejo, and Extra Añejo barrels. On the Rosa, which, for example, this whole line is Rosa, the Rosa is aged for around 1 month, and we need to try every single day the barrels. All of them, obviously not, but we take a sample of some barrels, and we'll keep track of the batch on a daily basis. This is the only way that we assure our quality and the control of it, and that every batch is consistent. Many people talking about Rosa tells me some days like, hey, why the Rosa change sometimes the coloring a little bit? And I like to tell like, dude, we don't do our rosa thinking on the color it's gonna have. We do our rosa based on the characteristics and on the batch consistency and the flavors. And the color is very similar with a batch from one batch to another, but we cannot assure that it's always going to be the exactly specific same color, since we do not add any chemicals or any flavorings or any other stuff except for the tequila and the barrels. So that's why. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this. It's been a pleasure giving the tour, and I'll see you over there in a while.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Riccardo. That's absolutely fascinating. It's great to see so many people posting up on the chat that they thought it was interesting. I love that kind of thing. Right. Okay. We are, as usual, well behind time. And before we run too much further over, we will go back and get our next and final cocktail from the superstar Gregorio. So back to Covent Garden.
Okay.
Okay.
So welcome back to Covent Garden. So what is a Paloma? Paloma is basically a base tequila drink with some grapefruit soda, and that's it. So we are going to make our Paloma build. Usually in Mexico, they drink with a ting. That's a grapefruit soda. Used to be in the time like a lemon citrus-ish grapefruit soda. What we are trying to reproduce today is exactly that. So we are not going to use grapefruit soda, but we are going to use just soda. And we are going to recreate the citrus part with some lime and some grapefruit. So what I suggest you to do is to use all the grapefruit around. So as you can see, I've done my tequila and tonic using the little peel of grapefruit. I'm gonna do another peel, and I'm gonna set aside for the garnish later. So now on, we're gonna start from the citrus. So how can you squeeze the juice from this one without to be messy? Just play around on the grapefruit, and it's gonna naturally release all the juice that's in it. Just slowly massage the grapefruit. And with that, you don't even need to use a juicer. So we need 30 ml of grapefruit. Let's say it can be like a half or the whole juice of the grapefruit. Okay. So let's try to measure it. That's perfect. So we got now 10 milliliter of lime juice. That's more or less half a lime. Gonna have like 25 to 30 milliliter of lime from the whole fruit. Now that's a strange question. How you like your Paloma? They would be sweet or maybe like citrus and that's it, like a sour. I like my Paloma a little bit sweet, so I would like to add some agave nectar. That's from Código as well. Let's put roughly 10 milliliter. So now there's just time of the main ingredients. We got the Paloma, the Rosa, 45 milliliter as well. And now it's time for ice and just a little top up with soda. So be sure when you mix your drink to reach like the really bottom of your glass, because even mainly if you're gonna add some sugar on it, the sugar will stay on the bottom of your glass. We're going to add our oil from the grapefruit. And that's the Paloma. So I propose a little twist on Paloma as well. And you can add simply a little touch of coffee or coffee liquor to it. You're gonna just need to add like 10 ml. And this will be a hit me up Paloma. Just give them a little. Here we are. And you will get this sexy Paloma. Salute.
Salute. Can we just flick around and have a look at some people who have made the cocktail as well? I know that there are quite a few. There we go. Christine. And anybody else? Oh, fantastic. There are lots of people getting involved in that. Fantastic. Great. Someone making definitely not a Paloma at the side, or maybe it is. Got all sorts going on there. The Geordie girls have performed. Got the straws out and everything. Fantastic. Okay, guys. Oh, you're on camera. Okay, we are ready to go back to Guadalajara, and I've got loads of questions here, but keep on putting them on the chat. Any other questions which people want to ask, and hopefully once we get a bit more relaxed, have a few more drinks, we can open things up and we can actually start talking to each other. That's the usual way. But if we can get back to Guadalajara and Riccardo, I can start asking some pertinent questions. So first off, Riccardo, thanks so much for that. That was absolutely brilliant. People were loving it in the chat. I think it was so interesting to see that side of production. You know, often it's so much about, okay, the still can do this, but actually to see how the bottling works, and the fact that you're cleaning the bottles with tequila before you put more tequila in. I think that fascinated quite a few people. But yeah, anyway, we've got loads of questions to get through. So I've got, I'll just start from the top. Got one from the Real Juniper Chick, and it's about yeast. One of my favorite subjects, I must admit. You could use baker's yeast and not more traditional fermenting yeast. How is that? Why don't you use a more traditional alcohol rather than a bread baker's yeast? What's the theory behind that?
Yes. Well, thank you for the question. First of all, Código 1530, since the beginning, the idea of the brand was how to make the best tequila we can make with no price restriction. So this means we're not looking for efficiency. We're not looking for making the things that other people are making. We tried so many things, and at the end, the result we liked the most, or the best, was with this yeast. And also is trying to keep the customs and the codex, as the name says, of the traditions in the family. We have been making this tequila. This tequila has been made for 5 generations now, and that's the way we decide to make our recipe. I know there are many specific yeast for champagne, for wines, and all these. We have tried them for sure, but let's say that's the common pattern in the industry. So we try to get out a little bit out of the sketch and use this very unique yeast. That's why. And
sorry, my geeky side is coming out. Do you actually keep the culture yourself and then keep reproducing it, or how does that work?
Exactly. The idea is the most efficient and the best way to make tequila is once you start your runnings, you keep them. It's a continuous process. So you'll need to inoculate, or I don't know how to say it in English, the first batch of yeast, and then it will reproduce, and you will be passing through one batch to the other. So yes.
Yeah, it's great.
Yes.
I think you actually answered the next one, which was about she was asking about the tradition of the brick ovens and why don't you use them? But I think you answered that really in your presentation about the positivity of having the metal ovens. It's easier to clean. It's best for standardization of flavor, etc. And pressure. Is that right? Pressure to actually cook. Presumably it's a bit of pressure cooking going on in there, is it?
Yes, correct. The pressure and the temperature is very important, because what happens if you cook the wrong way your agave, you will lose sugar contents. So if you overcook, you will caramelize all the sugars, and the yeast won't be able to process them in the next step, in the fermentation process. And kind of the same thing happens if you leave your agave not perfect cooked. You'll have some, let's say, raw agave still that the yeast won't be able to process. So when you have a brick oven, it's very hard to get it to the exact point, the cook of the agave. So either you can have some piñas that are overcooked or not good cooked. So that's why.
Yeah. No, I get that. And I suppose for those people who haven't been to Mexico, and I'm very fortunate, I've been to Mexico, I've traveled through Tequila, I've been to Guadalajara for quite some time. I love the city, but when you go through the tequila the agave growing part, those plants are crazy, aren't they? The agave plants are crazy. And you talked a lot about agave, but actually what can you compare the agave plant to? Is there another family of plants which it's like, or is it completely unique? I mean, it's long growing. It's a big plant, isn't it? Those things, they get up to being very heavy.
Yes, totally. Agave is very similar to cactus and all these type of plants. Mezcal, I would say, is the most the closest relative to the agave blue tequila, however. But in the mezcal, for example, you can use several types of agave. So you can use the Tobalá, the Espadín, just to mention the most commons, but there are like hundreds again of types of Silvestre agave. So yes, it's like between a cactus, it's a big plant. It is
hard to describe, isn't it? Because they are so unique. It's
so unique, and
until
very
you
common
see them
in Mexico.
Yeah. And they take the optimal time to actually harvest them is after 7 years, is it? Is that about right?
Yes, let's say there's a correlation between the age, the size of the piña, and the sugar content it has. So normally around 6-7 years, the agave should be full matured. You'll go to the field and take a sugar count test on all the field, check the size of the piña, the health of the field, and if everything matches, that's when it's perfectly ready to harvest.
Yeah. And of course, it's a bit like I suppose a vineyard in a way, that or vine, that it's affected by the terroir, the altitude, the rainfall, the volcanic soil, or the rocky soil, whatever. So you've got lots of aspects of sunlight, rainfall, soil affecting the actual flavor, which then obviously affects the flavor of the tequila, right?
That's correct, totally. That's the most important part, I would say, of the denomination of origin or appellation of origin, which we need to have the specific conditions in order to get our tequila, which means, as you just said, the water, the climate, how the seasons are in this area, the wind, all the raw materials like the agave, for example, because agave won't grow the same in this part of Mexico than in other part of Mexico. So it's very important. And
Mexico is a big country, so
yes, many climates.
many climates, unbelievable.
Yes.
May I remind people at this point that we still haven't finished the competition. I think there's still time to go in the competition. The winner hasn't been announced yet, so keep on listening out for the magic word. Okay, so going back to the bottling plant, people are fascinated by the fact that the bottle has got almost like this imperfections built in. You know, like it's almost like a air bubbles in the bottle. I think I know the answer, but you definitely do know the answer for that look.
Yes. When we started the company, we wanted a bottle that was beautiful, that it feels like heavy, but not too beautiful to not open it, to not, like to have it only on the shelf. So we get this idea of having like the bottle that your grandfather would have on his cabinet or in his bar, like this old or antique bottle with the bubbles, which give an artisanal touch. And actually, to have those bottles to get those bubbles in the bottle, it's almost impossible. So it's a very, very, very complex process, and it changes when you go to the glass factories. You will realize that they need to be checking every 30 minutes the quality of the bottles that they are getting out, since it has a lot of variations, and it's very hard to achieve. So
I bet. I can imagine. And that leads me on to the next question. So obviously, sustainability, environmental issues are huge, not only in Mexico, but all around the world. But what are you as a company doing? I know that Xavi showed us the agave straw, which is incredible. But I think you guys do a lot more than that, don't you?
Yes, we're true believers that helping our people. I can tell you very, very happy and very excited that first of all our employees you see here, all of them are Mexicans. So we're employing a lot of Mexican people. What else? All the materials we do and all the materials we make are made in Mexico. We do not outsource materials from other places. And also what's most important is we have decided to be in a medium term, we want to become a zero waste distillery. What this means is very hard. Every agave we harvest and we cook and then we mash has a lot of fibers. So we have decided to pursue these agave bioplastic agave products, which are the straws. We're looking into the option of making some glassware, some shots, some shakers, some plates, all these kind of materials that agave normally would be a waste. We're trying to reprocess them to be let's say bioplastic agave made with agave. So we try to give a second life use. We're looking also into the option of making the carpets, the lower part of the carpets we are looking into the option of making something with that agave fibers. So also we want to have all these, for example, compost areas on the distillery. We are looking into using only wood from the area, from the region. Obviously, we're a lot into solar panels, as all our equipment are saving energy equipment. So we're a lot into this. We try to get all of this. Yes.
So that's amazing because, you do the byproducts of the agave plant are obviously numerous, and if you can use that, it's incredible.
Yes.
So on the you produce your own agave syrup, which is absolutely delicious and
Correct.
makes one of the best drinks ever when you've got lime, agave, and the Código. Is that squeezed before you would make your tequila? You can't make your tequila and then presumably that's a separate process, right?
No, that's a completely separate process.
Yeah.
You will need agave for tequila and agave for the syrup. So
okay.
Yes.
I would thoroughly recommend anybody who hasn't tried agave syrup to try it. It's absolutely amazing stuff. It's truly lovely. And with Código agave syrup and Código, it's just unbelievably good. Just quickly then onto the idea around why did you come up with the idea of aging or resting the Blanco in Napa barrels? Where did that come from? Was it an accident? Was it something which you thought?
It was kind of an accident and an experiment. We like to make every single sample trial you can imagine. We have made the weirdest things you can imagine, but that's the only way you will achieve to get a very different product. In the early days, when we brought the first barrels, we put a little bit of Blanco, and by mistake or experiment, however you want to call it, we leave a little bit of Blanco in one barrel. When we harvest that barrel, we realized that the color was relish, that the flavor was very similar to a Blanco, but very stabilized with a little bit of fruity notes, a little bit of raspberry notes, all these notes that the Rosa has very, very present. And we were excited by the idea. Of course, since this is a very new product, we had to argue a lot with the CRT, because this on the CRT is considered as a Blanco. It's not a reposado, even though it's in barrels. So we invented, and we start like having this conversation with the CRT saying like, okay, we will call it a Blanco, but it's a Rosa, but you can have the same traceability as with a regular product. And all this kind of stuff that was kind of part of the experiment. And it has taken us around, I would say, 3 years and a half to fully understand how the Rosa reacts and how it performs and how the notes it gets, because this is something totally new. Right now, we understand it better. We know it better. We know how to process it, how to produce it. But in the early days, we had many mistakes. For example, we overage it sometimes, and the flavor was not similar to what you're trying. So yes, it was more like an accident experiment.
I think with barrel aging, barrel resting, whatever you want to call it, it is very easy to overstep, isn't it? And then you get too much flavor from the wood, which overpowers the other flavors. So it's a fine balancing act, isn't it? That's why you say you're tasting it every day to kind of keep on top of that process, right?
Yes, it's very important. For example, in the Rosa, the tasting, to take care of the tasting, because we just want a hint of that flavors. If you over rest it, it'll be something totally different. And for example, on the Reposado and the Añejo and the Extra Añejo, the aging is very important, but also the charring on the barrel.
Yeah.
Charring has a lot of magic. It's not just put born inside and turn around. You need to match the specific point in order to get your oak the way you want it for aging. So we need to have a specialist for that, which is a tonnelier that knows perfectly our barrels. We know specifically how X barrel aged for on the previous pre-batch, let's say. So we know which barrels are the best ones and which ones are not the best ones, all these.
Yeah, we touched on it at the beginning, but glassware is obviously, when you were talking about these different styles of tequila, it's important. I think, whether you use a cognac glass or other types of glasses. And I suppose in Britain, we're not used to having high quality tequilas, but traditionally with Blanco, if I was drinking it in a bar with you, what would I be drinking it out of?
That's a very good question, because there's two things. There's two scenarios. One is when you will come to our distillery, I will give you that in a flute, in a champagne flute. But if you go to a restaurant, the most common in Mexico will be a caballito, which is like a shot glass or something similar. And that's the most common in Mexico for the tequila. Yes. And the cognac, again, for aged spirits.
Yeah. So I think we've got a winner right off that. So so I've got a winner on the competition, which is fantastic. I teed you up for that one, I think. I mean, it is fascinating though. I think with such high quality spirits, you've just got to really think about the glassware and what accentuates the aroma and the flavor. And I must admit, out of your whole range, I love the Rosa. I love all of them, but the Blanco was the one which just blew my mind, because you can't hide. There's nowhere to hide with the Blanco, is there? It's just the pure expression of what the tequila should be. So if you've got something wonky there, you can't hide it with aging it and putting something else onto it. You're like, that's it. So it's just such an amazing spirit.